As a nail technician, new or old in this industry, you might have come across some of these common problems when doing nails. Things like lifting, cracking, breaking, polish chipping, peeling, are just some of the most frustrating things that we deal with when we're working on clients or even working on ourselves. But in this video, I'm going over my top 5 most common mistakes that nail technicians make and how you can avoid them right now. Number 5 is going to be scratches on any type of finished nail enhancements. So why does something like this happen? Simply, if this happens to you, it's because you're using the wrong nail file. Nail files that are too aggressive leave scratches on the finished product. Even if you buff it out a lot, you'll still eventually see some type of scratches from your nail file on your finished nail enhancement. Not only is this bad for the appearance, but this actually affects the chemical breakdown of the product. If you didn't know, nail enhancements, so this could be gel, this could be acrylic, they usually take about 24 hours to kind of chemically set in. When you are filing too aggressively with your nail file, you are actually interrupting this process and could cause some type of disturbance in the polymerization process, which can maybe trickle down to your client and affect the longevity of your nail enhancements. So in order to avoid this, we have to make sure that we are using the correct file when we're filing nail enhancements. Again, particularly when I'm talking about this, I mean on top of the nail, not necessarily on the side. You don't really see scratches on the free edge and the sidewalls, but if you're filing on top of the nail, you don't want to be too aggressive. So what file should we be using for this? Good question. Many of you I see out there using a 100 grit or even an 80 grit, and this is just extremely too coarse for any type of nail enhancement. If you're filing on top of the nail, you should be with a 180. 180 is always going to be your go-to. When in doubt, I say this all the time, go 180. So 180 is going to be aggressive enough to get the job done while still not leaving any scratches or anything onto the nail enhancement. Okay, so let's take this nail that was just freshly done and file it. So for this, I'm going to be using 80 grit file, which is going to be very coarse. So let's just pretend that we are filing the nail, file. I'm doing all my filing with this 80 grit nail file. So now, if we take a look at this nail afterwards, if you look closely, you can see all the scratches and grooves and all that stuff that it made onto the nail enhancement, which is not good for it. So for the demonstration purposes, I wanted to just say, what if we e-file this nail? E-file, buff it out. Will it take away the scratches? No, you can still see that those scratches from that 80 grit file is on there. It is extremely harsh onto the nail. This is why we don't do anything like that. But side note, look at this structure. Ooh, wow, love it. But anyway, we want to make sure that we are using in 180 nail file when we are on top of the nail and not using 100 or 80 grit when filing. If you are looking to have a more sharper, crisp edge and you feel you want something a little bit more aggressive than a 180, I would highly recommend 150. It's not super common out there. Not a lot of brands and companies make them, but they are out there. It isn't hard to find. They just are less common and less talked about. But a 150 grit is going to be great to shape that side and your free edge right across and stick to the 180 on top of the nail. Number 4 is going to be too much primer / not enough primer. So did you know that actually using too much primer can actually backfire on you and your work and actually cause lifting and damage to your client's nails and not make them last? Why is this? Because if we're using way too much primer on the natural nail plate, what ends up happening is it ends up flooding towards the cuticle, flooding it. And when we put that nail enhancement product on top of it, it's actually going to get in the way of the enhancement attaching itself and adhering better to the nail plate because it has all this flooding of primer. So again, when I speak about these things, guys, you have to understand that you can sit and say, oh, well, I don't use too much primer. I don't think I do this. I don't think I do that. Sometimes things are going on that we can't see. Some things are microscopic. Some things are chemically going on that we can't see. And then we question why my nails always break. Why is my client always having lifting? I don't think I use too much primer. But just stop and take a look at how much primer that you're using. You need very little primer. We just want to just lightly grace the nail plate. We don't want to put a whole bunch. We don't want to put several layers, different products, all this stuff. It's bad for the nails. It's going to cause them to lift more easily, and it's actually very bad for your client's nail plates. So let's take this set that I'm about to do, this gel set that I'm about to perform. So the first thing after our prep is we want to take some dehydrated and just place it onto the nail. Again, I'm going to treat dehydrated the same way I'm going to do with primer. I'm not going to use an excessive amount. I just want to dehydrate the natural nail plate of any natural moisture and oils. That is it. I do not need a ton of this product. So once I do that on my fingers, by the time I close it, I'm going to just set it to the side. So next, I'm going to grab my primer. If you are somebody that forgets, if you dehydrate and prime one hand at a time and you forget, you see how I put the bottle right to the side? I'm going to put that bottle right to the side. I'm not going to put it all the way on the other side, because we don't want to just be good with one hand and totally forget about the other. We want to make sure that we are dehydrating and priming both hands. And you see, I'm again just lightly placing a little bit of that primer onto only the natural nail, being careful that it doesn't run onto the side walls or too much into the cuticle area. And again, if I'm going one hand at a time, I'm going to take that primer and I'm just going to keep it right there so I remember. Number 3 is a very important thing that we have to make sure that we don't do. Rushing the preparation section when we are working on a client. You never want to rush your prep. If you speed up everything else, and we can do nails very quickly and work on our speed and be quick, but your prep should take minimum a certain amount of time, because you have to make sure you are getting all the things in the prep the right way. So we have to make sure that we are not rushing the prep. Rushing prep can lead to so many other issues and breaking and lifting and damage to your client's nails and all these things. A lot of problems that we have with nails and your clients are gonna have is because of your prep. It all starts with the prep. So what does a proper prep look like? Let me show you now. So how I begin my prep is I always take my client's hand. First and foremost, let's get rid of any type of germs. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of antibacterial spray. Make sure we're spraying our customers' top of the hands and the underside of the hands. I don't care if you wash your hands. We're going to spray. So the next thing I like to do is take a little bit of swipe. Some people use alcohol, some people use any other product like this. And I just want to take a lint-free wipe and wipe the nail plate of any type of moisture, oils, anything of that. I want a nice clean surface. Now I need to push back her cuticles, and I like to use an orange wood stick that has this little sticker adhesive thing that helps scrape the cuticle and the natural nail plate as well as push back. I have this on my Amazon storefront underneath my client my client kits, something like that. But it's on my Amazon storefront where you can buy the little adhesives and the orange wood sticks. Amazing. So I love to use these, especially when I have natural nail girls and I'm doing gel manicures, gel eggs, I'm prepping anything with a natural nail. I love to use these as well as pedicures. So I'm just going to go ahead and push back anything. And again, I love these because not only is it pushing back the cuticle, but if somebody has high cuticles and it's on top of the nail plate, or any leftover gel, if you soak somebody, anything like that, it's going to show when you start filing with this thing, and it's also going to remove it for you. So I love using this thing again when I'm prepping. It does a really, really good job of doing two things in one for me. So now you should be going in with some type of cuticle bit on your e-file. So you can use a ball bit like I just showed you, or a rounded diamond bit, which is also known as a cuticle bit as well. I like to use that one. I use the one from Young Nails. You can find it on any other one on Amazon. Love it. So go ahead and use that. I love this because, one, after I push back and use that little bit of adhesive, If anything stuck out from that roughing up the nail or filing, I would see it, and then I'll be able to make sure I get rid of it, any residue or anything like that, with this bit. Also, after I pushed, it gave me a nice clean path for me to go in with that cuticle safety bit and just remove any cuticle. It's very important that we're removing any cuticle, again, especially for anybody that has thick cuticles or high cuticles. You want to just make sure you're doing all of this prep work in order to have the best adhesion. So next, again, if I'm doing a fresh set of any sort, I like to follow the natural nail. The reason being, if you are doing a customer that has any type of narrow shape, stiletto, almond, ballerina, coffin, whatever, you want to make sure that those sides of the natural nail are filed in as much as possible. And I like to usually leave the nail in a natural nail shape, oval shape, rounded edges, something. I want to get those edges out the way, because that will also affect, as the nails are growing out, it will start to lift on the side walls, more likely, again, with those more narrower enhancements, because the natural nail wants to grow out while the enhancement is being filed inward. So we want to make sure we just file that. And then I like to go in with that small sanding band just to make sure that everything is buffed. Again, I use a very fine grit. These are the mini sanding bands. Love these. Amazing. Again, on my Amazon storefront, everything that I use. And I love to use these on the natural nail and again on pedicures, just to make sure it really kind of cleans that cuticle area. I found that if you use it more towards the last step versus in the beginning stages, it just has a better effect on the cleanness of the cuticle. So I like to use that. And then while I'm there, I just like to make sure I'm really kind of roughing up that nail. Again, not too much. You notice that this was the only time I've kind of touched towards her free edge. Everything else was just the cuticle area. I don't want to overly and excessively file the natural nail too much. So I just like to hit it one time with that fine sanding band at the end. And the last thing I want to do is just make sure I'm cleaning underneath her nails. You know, guys, even if you are not doing a manicure, you're doing enhancements, it's even more important that you're getting all that stuff that was underneath your client's nails in this time, because again, she's about to have enhancements on. So that means that whatever is there is going to be there. And that is it for my prep. This is what I do on every single client. So again, now that we know how to properly prep the nail, we just want to make sure that, again, that we are following all the protocol when it comes to prep, or however you prep. Maybe you prep a little bit different than what I've just showed you, but either way, we want to make sure that we don't rush through that process and we properly prep every client. Number 2 is going to be unstructured nails. So I get it. A lot of style, a lot of girls and your clients now, they want these long, flat, square nails. And I totally get that, and there's nothing wrong with what's trending. People show you a picture and they want it to look a certain way. We can achieve this, but what I do see out in these streets is a lot of people have these flat pancake nails, and those break. If your client comes to you repeatedly, or several clients come to you all the time, and everybody's nails are breaking and they're at the free edge, that's you, boo. That's saying your nails are not structured correctly, because they're all breaking right at the free edge, right where the stress area is, right where your apex should be built. Your nails should not have a big bump after the cuticle. They need to be placed in the stress area. That is where the apex should be. So we can still have nice, trendy, square, long nails and have them be flat in a sense, but they need to be structured so that they last and they don't act like hurt your client, because you banging these long double XL nails on something, like, that shit hurts. So you have to make sure that we're not damaging our clients as well and letting them hurt themselves. So let me show you how we can still do these nails properly and keep our clients happy while making sure the nail is properly structured. So let's do some applications on a nice, I don't even know how many XL this is, but this was a long ass nail. So let's go ahead and start. We're gonna just do our basic application. So for a nail that's this long, if you've noticed, some of you have noticed how I do my application. I usually start at the cuticle and work my way down. However, when I have a really long nail, I tend to start, as most people do, at the free edge. And I'll work my way down, pat, pat, pat. So I'm gonna speed this up just so we can see. I'm just kind of showing you coverage, and let's just get to the point of when we do the actual structure. So right now I'm just gonna do my application like nothing and get that acrylic on there. Okay, now that we've gotten everything on the nail and it's covered, now I'm going to go in with another bead in my apex area. So for a regular size nail, I can probably get this done with one bead. I will need more than one just to kind of blend and mend and make sure it's evened out. When the nail is longer. Again, the longer the nail, the more support it needs. So one bead might not cut it for a nail this length. I had to go in a little bit and it left me indentations. So I had to go back in. But we want to just make sure that we are building this nail up. Again, it might look a little bit crazy, but we see we have a little bit of structure. There's our apex in our stress area. It's still flat. It's still all of that. Once we file this nail, it will be gorgeous. And let's fast forward to that. And let me just show you what it looks like. Boom. Nice, long, XL, structured, thin by the cuticle, thin on the free edge. Simple. You can still have trendy nails, but have it be done correctly. The number one thing is going to be your gel polish, not curing all the way, making a little crinkly look or bubbling up, or you wipe it and it messes up because it wasn't fully cured. That is the most annoying thing ever. And this can happen to almost everybody, but there is a reason why it's happening, and the reason that it's happening is because your gel polish is too thick and or hand placement into the LED UV machine. So why does this happen again? Remember, gel does not like thickness. Gel likes nice, thin layers. They like it to be painted on thin. Sometimes when we're doing stuff with the liner brush and using gel paint is very pigmented. It comes out very thick, especially if you're using black. And we need to make sure that it's very thin and it's curing all the way. You're polishing anybody with dark polishes. You need to make sure that it's super thin. You'll be better off with 3 thin coats than 2 thicker coats. Always, because it's gonna fully cure. So that's something that we wanna look out for when polishing with gel polish, is just, again, making sure that it's super thin, because that is the reason why it's not curing and it's bubbling up or crawling up on you. So how can we avoid this trick? I have a few tips for you. Let me show you now. Okay, so the first thing I want to mention out, and I'm going to use dark colors for this because you'll see this happen more so with dark colors. If you pull your gel polish out and you see how it's giving me that stringy, it is not glue. It should not pull. That means it's a little bit too thick. Guys, do not be afraid to add a smidge. When I say a smidget of acetone to your gel polish. You can do this. You don't have to do it that often because it doesn't work the same like regular polish when you add acetone to it. But you want to just make sure you're adding a smidget to get a little bit more fluid so you can get a lighter, thinner paint when you are painting this. So now that that looks good, let's go ahead with our polishing. If you've seen any of my videos before, I went over this before, so I'm not going to stress it too much. The 3-stroke method. We want one down on the middle, the left side, the right side. Remove all the excess. We want to be able to see that nail through that first layer. Very thin and simple. So we want to just make sure we're removing any product, and you can see what it looks like from here. Thin. Again, you still see that beige through it. We go ahead and we want to do 2 coats of that. So let's just say, for example, let's do another color. And I'm going to do a different type of example. I'm going to paint this. We see that it's very fluid. It's fine. It's not too thick. I just wanted to show you that so you didn't think I was messing around with you on camera. I'm going to do the same method. So this time I'm not very conscious of how thin I'm painting. I'm just painting it on as if it was maybe regular polish or something. I just want to get it all on there and make it nice and rich. So I'm going to go ahead and do my first coat. There's the first coat. You see we have full coverage after the first coat. Red flag number 1. Let's cure that. After it comes out, let's repeat the same process with the second layer. So again, not being excessively heavy, but I'm not being conscious of how thin I'm painting. There is a big difference. So this is my second coat. You can see it here. Now let's go ahead and cure that. So now when it comes out the machine, she looks great, right? Fantastic, looks fine. Let me show you a trick. Take a little bit of swipe or acetone, alcohol, whatever, and I'm gonna just wipe this nail. Immediately, once I start to wipe it, and I'm aggressive, I'm kind of heavy-handed. You see this little area where it started to bubble? If you can see that on camera, I'm pretty sure you see that. I see that. This little dent that looks like. That's a problem. And you notice we didn't see it when it was shiny before. So now I'm going to take an orange wood stick and look at this. That whole layer is not dry. And when I tell you I cured these for about 2 minutes each, because I was filming and doing stuff. And that's how much it didn't dry. All of that was still uncured. So let's say when I came out of that second coat, I put top coat on and I just seemed fine. I didn't think to wipe it or anything. My client would have went out, hit her nail. It would have been disgusted. So you're gonna just make sure that we're painting it very thin. Gel does not like thick layers. So just make sure of that when you are using polish and you should be fine. So in doing all of these, I guarantee you that you won't really have any issues when it comes to your gel polish not curing and or your nail art bubbling up on you or curling up on you. If you just make sure that everything you're doing is kind of on the thinner side. If you guys have any other mistakes and you can't figure out why the hell does this keep happening to me, leave me a comment below and I'll be sure to try to answer that for you. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.